We'll call the Wednesday, January 25th Planning Commission meeting to order. May we have a roll call?
Chair DeBolt, absent. Vice Chair Lowe.
Here.
Commissioner Andrade, absent. Commissioner Quilty. Here. Commissioner Gross. Here. Commissioner Suffolcani.
Here.
And Commissioner Zelmer, absent. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may address the Planning Commission and speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission. Please state if you wish to speak on an item on the agenda. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes. This is for, anybody that wants to speak. Go ahead, thanks.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Leslie Whitley, and I am a longtime resident and business owner here in Los Alamitos, more than 30 years, raised our family here. And I'm here tonight to talk about short-term rentals. And currently, the code for Los Alamitos does not allow residents to rent out their homes as short-term rentals on websites such as VRBO, Airbnb, furnishedfinders.com, travelingnurses.com, things like that. And so I wanted to see if we could agendize this topic and discuss the possibility of allowing that here in Los Alamitos for residents. So I know that there's been an issue in recent times in Seal Beach with short-term rental business literally taking over parts of that town. I don't believe that would be a problem here. That typically is something you see in towns that are right by the ocean or that have the word beach in them, neither of which we have, as great as we are. So I just don't think that that would be a problem. I know some people are fearful of noise in residential areas, but there are software programs that can take that issue away. For example, there's a software where you can install monitors around the perimeter of your house, and you can set a certain acceptable level of noise. For example, maybe one level is acceptable in the daytime and one level is acceptable at night. And if the noise level goes above that preset level, then the owner of the home gets notified and we can step in immediately and put that to go to rest before the police even have to get involved. There's also sensors that you can put in a predetermined number of people. Like, for example, if a family of 5 rents my home, I can put that in and the sensor will detect through motion and through noise if a large gathering has taken place, if the family has invited all their friends and relatives over. And so there's a lot of ways that we could benefit from having short-term rentals without a negative impact on our neighbors. So I just wanted to point out some of those things. Los Alamitos is a great city. I've loved living here, loved raising my family here, and I think it's a very conducive place to invite families to come and bring their tourism dollars to our city. We're so centrally located to so many wonderful attractions, the beaches, but also universities, hospitals, and you can attract lots of professionals that may not want to stay in a hotel. I know we have hotels, but if you're a family traveling with 3 or 4 kids, you're not going to want to stay in a hotel room. So I think they're going to other cities and giving the tourism dollars there. I think that we could generate revenue for our city in the form of homeowners being required to have business licenses to operate in the city. We also would be paying our transient occupancy taxes, more revenue. And by families and professionals staying here in our city, it also brings a different stream of revenue for our restaurants, bars, racetrack, even things like nail salons, farmers markets, churches, things like that. So I would love to open up the discussion. I have a lot of great ideas. I've thought long and hard about this. And if at any point anybody has any questions, I would love for them to reach out. And I would love to offer any, insight that I have into that. But I really do appreciate, I really hope we can open up that discussion. It's a completely different way of traveling, and right now we're not addressing that for tourists that might want to come to our area. And I think our city's missing out on potential revenue. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a question and a comment. A question for the speaker?
Yes.
Comment and a question?
Yes.
Comment is a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Outstanding. What's the name of the software or the app that monitors numbers of people? You don't have to tell me now. Just be
I
ready.
can get it. Yes, there's a couple of them. There's one in my research and in talking to other acquaintances that I have. My husband and I do real estate investing, not through Airbnb, but through having tenants. And so at meetups, I've talked to other people that have done this. I care deeply about my neighbors. I've lived in my house over 30 years. And when I would express that, I'm hearing about all of these great things that have risen to allow residences to have guests there and not have parties going on at 2 a.m. Obviously, if I'm renting out my house, my husband and I are not there, and we may be nearby, but we're not going to hear a party going on. So I love that there are unobtrusive monitors that can get set around in the same way that you could also have Ring cameras at certain locations, and all of that legally needs to be disclosed to guests. And I think just by having some of those in place, and you put that in your listing, and a group of people that might be thinking of coming here for a sporting event and gathering up large people would, bypass one listing and go to another one in a city maybe where they're not so strict. So, I come from a place, this is not, obviously it would be a business deal for us, but I also come from a place, this is my city and these are my neighbors, and we're aware of the successes that other people are having doing this. So I can get you the names of several of them that you can research.
If this comes up, be ready to provide things of that nature.
Even if it wasn't required, 100%. I've done the research, I've spoken with the companies. I just didn't think to bring my list, but
okay.
yeah, those items are very important to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay, Planning Commission reorganization. Annual Planning Commission reorganization is, the report provides, anyways, should we do the, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to.
Hold on, sorry about that, Vice Chair Lowe, but let us explain the process first, and
Okay,
then we can
sorry.
go on that, right? So, again, it's that time of year again where the Planning Commission is going to select the chair and the vice chair. So the process here is that since the Chair DeBolt's not here, Vice Chair Lowe will relinquish both the chair and the vice chair seats. And then that's when Department Secretary Maria V. Enciso will kind of take over, entertain a motion, a second, then we'll do a vote. And then once the chair is voted, then the newly elected chair will then take over for a motion and then a subsequent vote for the vice chair. Okay? So.
Okay. Maria.
Okay. At this time, I'll open floor for nominations for chair. After nominations, I will close the nominations and a roll call vote will be taken in order received. So are there any nominations for office of chair?
I nominate Gary Lowe for chair.
I'll second.
Okay. All right. You can go. Is there any further nominations? No? Okay. I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Commissioner Andrade, absent. Commissioner Quilty,
Yes.
Commissioner DeBolt, absent. Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Lowe,
Sure.
Commissioner Stolfo-Caddy,
I'm waiting for Commissioner Lowe to.
and then Commissioner Zelmer's absent. So the motion carries. So congratulations, Chair Lowe.
Thank you. Thank you.
So go ahead and I turn it to you for
Thank-
the vice chair.
Thank you. At this time, is there any nominations for vice chair?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Culley, Marianne Culley.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
No further?
All those in favor? Aye.
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 That was quick. No, I'll do the roll call.
Sorry. Okay.
Commissioner Andrade, absent. Commissioner Quilty?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBolt, absent. Commissioner Gross?
Yes.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
And Commissioner Zelmer, absent. So the motion carries. Congratulations, Vice Chair Quilty.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll look at the consent calendar. So calendar A is the findings for the AB 361 for the continued use of teleconferencing for meetings. Can someone, and we'd like to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Would you like to do a roll call? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Can I add clarification that the consent calendar is for both item A and B?
Okay.
All right, so I just want to make sure that that's, you are aware of that. All right, thank you.
So item B is approval for the approval of the minutes. Did we do both? We did both at the same time? Okay, gotcha. Sorry. So we'll move on to the public hearing. So public hearing letter, or item 7A is site development permit 22-03, adding a residential unit to a multifamily property. At this time, I'd ask staff for a report.
That would be me. Thank you, Chair Lowe and members of the Planning Commission. Site Development Permit 2203 is the consideration of an application to construct a 1,016 square foot, two-story residential unit on a property with an existing residence at 4321 Howard Avenue. And the applicant is here with us tonight, Oscar Sanchez from Ideal Designs, and the property owner, Michelle Shigena. Mr. Sanchez proposes to add the 1,016 square foot residential unit on a property with an existing 929 square foot home. This unit will be built in expectation of the other half of it being an ADU. However, as a reminder, ADUs as part of this are considered separately. They're not considered by the commission. They're considered by just following the code and basically getting a building permit. Vehicle access is gained from the north side of the property in the alley. For project build-out, there are 7 parking spaces required, and the applicant proposes 8. And that does meet the city's requirements, of course. The project meets all of the general development and use standards and the R3 residential development standards, except for the parcel width, but this is a legal non-conforming lot, which is not being subdivided, so it doesn't create a new lot. The architecture is an architectural style that would be modern, contemporary with smooth white stucco, which is, as opposed to that crumbly kind of stucco, it's smooth white. Modeled after the existing front home. I don't know if you've been past this, but it looks very nice now. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the applicant's project with the conditions listed in the resolution. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff at this time? Any commissioners?
No.
Okay, and this is a public hearing, so I'll open up the public hearing to the public. And at this time, I'd offer or ask if the applicant would like to come forward and talk a little about your project. Mr. Sanchez.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. Thank you once again for having us here. I'm the designer on the project, and I worked with Tom with other projects before, and he guided me on this, making sure we're able to put all the appropriate codes, all the appropriate standards that were needed. We did a couple modifications, went back and forth. Love working with Tom. He always communicates really well with us. And we were able to accomplish the requirements that were needed. And we're hoping to move forward. We did the best we can for design, try to implement the requirements that also the owner wanted. And it was challenging, but we got it through.
Excellent. Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions?
for the applicant? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak on this project?
I do have a question. It's simply because I can't see well. What is the height of the building? We have a drawing here, but I can't read it.
It should be, I think, under 25 feet.
25, 26.8?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe it's 30 is the max.
Okay, yes, because we have another agenda item and it addresses heights, so I
Okay.
wasn't sure you were.
Yeah, we met those.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item 7A as proposed.
A second.
And we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Good luck. Appreciate it. Thank you.
See you later.
At this time, we'll move on to item 7B, which is the state mandated update for the accessory dwelling units and regulations. At this time, I'll let staff
Go ahead and,
or our city attorney talk about
great,
it.
thank you. So before the Planning Commission for consideration this evening is a recommendation to the City Council for a zoning code amendment to update the city's ADU regulations. Just by way of background, an ADU, as defined by state law, is an attached or detached residential dwelling unit that provides complete independent living facilities for one or more persons and is located on a lot with a proposed or existing primary residence. An ADU includes permanent provisions for living, sleeping, eating, cooking, and sanitation on the same parcel as the single-family dwelling or multifamily dwelling. These units will typically range in size anywhere from 150 square feet up to 1,000 square feet for the units themselves. A small subset of the ADUs is what's referred to as a junior accessory dwelling unit. Unlike ADUs that can be built in connection with multifamily projects or single-family homes, a JADU can only be permitted within the confines of an existing single-family residence. And the definition of what a JADU is under state law is a small residential dwelling unit contained entirely within a single-family residence. A JADU may include separate sanitation facilities or may share sanitation facilities with the existing single-family residence. And the size we're talking about when you look at JADUs is roughly between 220 square feet up to 500 square feet for those units. So the city's ADU regulations currently are codified at section 1728020 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code. We last updated those regulations in the year 2020 to reflect what were then changes in the state law regarding our ability to regulate these uses. Since that time, and most recently with the last legislative session, there have been some minor changes to the state ADU law that requires some tweaks to our existing regulations. Notably, that's SB 897 and AB 221, both of which took effect in January of this year, so are now effective. The review that we're conducting this evening is also consistent and required by the general plan housing element update that the Planning Commission recommended for approval to the City Council in October. Within that general plan housing element, we do have a policy action that requires annual review and update of the ADU ordinance to ensure compliance with state law. So that's why we're here. That's what brings us to this meeting tonight. I'll just go ahead and point out some of the changes that have been made in response to changes in state law. The first pertains to the height of ADU structures. Our existing regulations more or less state that an ADU must be 16 feet height maximum, unless it's built within the confines of an existing structure. The state law recently provided more specificity as to what we're allowed to do with respect to height. At this point, with the 2022 legislation, detached ADUs are generally still limited to a maximum height of 16 feet. However, in certain circumstances, namely if the detached ADU is built in close proximity to a major transit corridor or a major transit stop or high-quality transit corridor, these units may now be built to a height of 18 feet. And then on top of that, an additional 2 feet can be requested if necessary to meet and sort of match the existing angle of the roof line of the residential unit that it's being paired with. I've spoken with Tom. It's unlikely that that 18-foot height limit would impact our city because, as defined, we don't have, a major transit stop located within the city or a high-quality transit corridor as defined by the law. But nevertheless, we've included it within the code to reflect state law. And in the event in the future that we do have bus routes that meet the frequency and volume requirements that would trigger that limit. Also, a detached ADU, and one more circumstance where we can get to a height of 18 feet maximum is with a detached ADU that's paired with a multifamily, multi-story dwelling. So if you have a multifamily unit that's more than 1 story, an attached ADU, or a detached ADU, sorry, can go up to a height of 18 feet in connection with that project. And then lastly, the state law has now specified that the height of the attached ADU. So I apologize, I may need to slow down, but there's these nuances and distinctions about what's called a converted ADU, which is within sort of the footprint of an existing dwelling or structure. There's the detached units, which is what you think of most typically with, what used to be called granny flats or pool homes, things of that nature. And then there's the attached ADU, where you're essentially building an extension onto an existing unit and creating an independent ADU. So with attached ADUs, we now have specificity that the attached ADU can be the lower of 25 feet or the limit of the local zoning height requirements for that development. The reason that was imposed is just, I think most cities already had this practice where you would try to limit the ADU to whatever the height standards were for the underlying zoning. But the state's just trying to specify that if you have a house that's 25 feet, you should be able to build an ADU above a garage, for example, that would match the roof line of the second story. But within that context, we're still able to specify that an ADU cannot in any instance be over 2 stories in height. So we've gone ahead and done that in our ordinance as well. And then the last point, or the last substantive change rather that's addressed here, is there are some clarifications about junior accessory dwelling units. As I mentioned in the definition, you can have a JDU that either has its own independent restroom facilities, or you can have a situation where there's a shared restroom with the primary dwelling unit. And so what the legislature has done now is clarified that if you have a JDU that's sharing a restroom with the primary unit, you have to have an interior access point from the JDU into the main living areas of that home to allow access to the restroom. So again, that was something that cities had generally done anyway, but it's just a clarification that's been made. So that's an overview of the substantive changes that have been made with the ordinance and the rationale for making those changes. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take a shot at addressing them.
I have one, just curious, it's not relating to that exactly, but ADUs and short-term rentals, does the state talk about short-term rentals along with ADUs?
Our existing ordinance, and as would be carried forward tonight, prohibits ADUs from being used for rental periods of less than 30 days.
The state's not overriding that or talking about that, or?
Yeah, the state in essence has said we can still limit them. And
Gotcha.
The truth of the matter is there's very limited instances where we're able to sort of control these developments at this point, but that's one sliver where the state said, hey, you can go ahead and say that they can't be used as vacation rentals. And to the extent, it's actually a great point, because to the extent there's any future discussion of short-term rentals within the city, that's probably something we'll want to look at as well, is should we address that within the context of ADUs or not?
Gotcha. Any questions?
What is the maximum height with all
Yeah.
variables being met?
Okay, so, and I hate to give you You asked an absolute question, but I'm going to answer with a hypothetical. And that's, if we did have a bus route within the city that eventually hits certain frequencies at major intersections, that could potentially trigger the requirement that we go as high as 20 feet. Right now, within the city, we don't have any bus routes or transit stops that would trigger that requirement. So absent that possibility, the highest detached ADU you would see would be 18 feet.
Okay.
And that's if it's developed in connection with a multifamily, multi-story development. If it's a single-family home and it's a detached ADU, we're still locked in at 16.
Got it. Okay.
And do we know what, like, the frequency is for the transit and what exactly
Yeah.
that?
So major transit stop, as defined, means an existing rail or bus rapid transit station, clearly not applicable to us. Again, a ferry terminal, which doesn't apply, and odds are good. But then there's the intersection of two or more major bus routes with a frequency of service interval of 15 minutes or less during the morning and afternoon peak commute periods. So that's the research that Tom's done and worked with OCTA to determine whether or not we have anything that meets that definition currently. And as of this evening, the answer is we do not. But there's a possibility that we could trigger that at some point.
Do you know how, in your research, how often the buses run now?
There's one along Catella that it is every 15 minutes and more, but along Los Al Boulevard, there's less. I mean, there's none that are every 15 minutes. And they're 15 minutes for certain periods, but not during major rush hour times and stuff like
Okay.
that, so, yeah.
Oh, and I guess one other thing to specify there too is that even if we found ourselves in a situation where we now hit those intervals, it would only apply to developments within 1/2 mile walking distance of that intersection. So it wouldn't automatically open up the
Yeah.
entire city.
Good portion of our city.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Items from the Development Services Department.
Yes, thank you. The only item we want to report was a follow-up on the housing element. It was scheduled to go to the city council meeting, I believe, this past Monday, but the council pulled the item and continued it to the February council meeting. So I just wanted to provide an update to the planning commission on that. Besides that, that is all from us. Thank you.
Okay. Should we at this time, anybody want you talk about the short-term rentals? Is that something that's of anybody's interest
Well,
To agendize it?
to agendize it?
yeah, I think we should probably, council, we should make a motion, and we should act upon that.
If you want
I
to.
think, we haven't agendized it for discussion tonight, but if during commissioner reports, if it sounds like the
Right.
consensus is there's a desire to bring that back, staff will definitely agendize it for a future meeting, and then we can have that
Yeah.
discussion.
You have to have a motion to agendize it and a second and
Make a motion.
Or it to be a commissioner's report, so we have commissioner.
Yeah,
report.
you don't even need to make a motion on that at this point,
You don't?
just during your reports, if you tell us that's something you would
Oh.
want, and we can bring it back, if that's the consensus.
Perhaps only one person wants it, though.
No. And they'll have to explain themselves when it's agendized.
No, I'm just wondering. I don't know. I'm kind of whatever on it. You know what I mean? So, Tom, do you have any thoughts on that?
Did you have a question on it?
Yeah.
Okay, what you mean about short-term rentals?
Yeah.
Oh, we get quite a few calls of people that want to do it. It's a very popular thing and a very many phone calls that come in about it. So 3 a week probably right now
Interesting.
Wow.
of
That's a
people
lot.
that call and ask, can I do it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a downside of having it for discussion. I mean, if it's researched and it's facts are put in front of us and we can see the benefits and the negatives, so at least we can have an opportunity to discuss it after, some research. Sounds like there's some benefits to the city with regard to revenue generation, and maybe we want to have the police department weigh in with their experiences. I mean, I don't know. I would like to discuss it. I would like to see it agendized personally.
Okay. That sounds like we would like to have that agendized for a future meeting. Any other commissioner reports?
Go ahead.
How are they doing on the medical office up on Catella? How's that coming along? I noticed they're really getting there finally, but
Yeah, the sticks are in the air, but that's the quickest part of the whole project. So it'll probably be 6 months is my guess, at least, for them to still finish it. So, yeah, you'll notice, though, the chevron's almost done. They've, I don't know what they're doing right now, but they've torn up all the concrete, which was kind of odd. So, anyway, that's almost done.
I have something.
Sure.
Maybe I missed something here. I asked council a question and got a hypothetical answer, but it sounds like in any situation, we can only get 20 feet on an ADU. Did we just approve one for 25.6?
No, you approved the one unit, but it's an attached
Yeah.
to
Was
a
it-
multifamily. Oh, I'll let
It's attached?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
will
so
be
I'm
attached.
sorry, when I referred to the maximum height being, ranging from 16 to 20, that's with respect to detached. The other part of what the state law has said now is that for an attached ADU, it's the lower of 25 feet
Okay.
or the height standard of the district within which the unit's located.
And to match the roof line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But that wouldn't even be considered an ADU, would it?
Yeah, isn't it just an addition?
Well,
just
that is correct.
a
We did not-
multifamily.
We did not approve an ADU tonight. You approved a second
Right.
duplex of sorts that's,
The reason why people do ADUs is so they don't have to provide much more parking. With a regular unit, you got to put a
Right.
lot of parking.
So it's an attached ADU. So it's basically like an addition, but it's termed an ADU so you can circumvent all the parking and everything requirements.
and the classic example, and I think what they're looking at with this 25-foot thing, is let's imagine you have a two-story, single-family residence with a one-story attached two-car garage, right? They're wanting to clarify that you can put an ADU above that garage, and because it's above the garage, it may well be above 16 feet.
Okay. Okay, I
But
get
it
it.
would still be at the height that's limited by that.
I misunderstood the complexion of this construction. I thought it was an ADU. It's just basically an addition.
There's an addition, and then an ADU, and then a single-family residence up front is kind of how it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other commissioner reports? Then I will adjourn the meeting until the next scheduled planning commission meeting.
do we have to do another quick meeting for continuing the tele meetings?
We did that earlier.
We have
Well,
enough?
No, because the next one's the 22nd.
Oh, I
So we'll be within,
30?
In 30 days.
yeah.
And I believe the governor's order, expires February 28th anyhow, so
Gotcha.
Yeah.
you can maybe just buying yourself a couple more days at that point, because we won't be able to make those
Gotcha.
findings at that stage.
Perfect. Adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.